Chibi Ruby finished her classes for the day and went into her room to relax and wind down. But as soon as she entered, she was surrounded by eggs. All of which hatched into baby versions of all the monsters she's learned about so far, from Katana, from Barioth, to Tigrex, to Deviljo, to even a baby Cedius that still took up half the room. The babies then started smothering and licking her. So many baby monsters. She cried out happily as she laughed from being cuddled and licked. However, Chibi Ruby's body started shaking violently. "Ruby, come on, up and at 'em," Yang declared, as this was all revealed to be a dream the young leader of Team RWBY was having. "Aw Yang, I was having my favorite dream," Ruby complained. "Which one?" "The one where you're Queen of Remnant and everyone has to pay taxes and cookies? Or the new one where you're surrounded and smothered by baby monsters?" Blake asked with a raised brow. "Smothered by baby monsters," Ruby admitted. "I swear, you're becoming more obsessed with these monsters than you are with weapons." Weiss criticized her team leader. "Which is kinda scary, with how much of a gun nut you are." Yang added. "Don't worry, Ruby. I've totally had the same dream, too. Except in mine, I use the monsters to become Queen of Remnant," Nora declared. "They just want to play with baby animals. I think that's something we can all agree with." Cinder defended Ruby and Nora's, but mostly Ruby's, dream about the monsters. "Ah, my hero," Ruby said. "Let's not dawdle, students. Katana is likely already waiting for us. We shouldn't keep her waiting." Glinda reminded them, prompting them all to quickly get dressed as well. It had been another couple of days since their last viewing of Monsters, the day before dedicated once again to the MCU, starting at the incredible Guardians of the Galaxy and ending with the epic, but heartbreaking Captain America, Civil War. So, it was lucky then, that Katana had brought in one final group of watchers, two of whom were particularly close to some of the current viewers, Roman Torchwick, who had quite a blast seeing criminals like himself step up to save the day. Adam Taurus, from before Sienna Khan had taken over the White Fang and before he'd taken a human life, who also had his eyes open about how obsessions destroyed someone and that different people truly could come together and to let go of grudges, from Scarlet Witch in Age of Ultron. Ilya Amatola, actually brought in from the future after she defected from the White Fang, who found herself fascinated with the insane variety of characters and the struggles of each one. And finally, Summer Rose, the once dearly departed mother and stepmother respectively of Ruby and Yang and former leader of her and Crow's team, who found herself holding her daughters for the entire last act of Civil War. The group entered the main area, where Katana was ready with another breakfast buffet for the group and the monsters for those that currently had them, that being everyone but the new cast. "Alright, then. Who's ready to learn about more monsters?" Katana asked as everyone settled in. "You mean the creatures that the others have as pets, right?" Adam asked. "Yes, Adam. Those are the only monsters here," Katana confirmed. "This will be exciting. We had a lot of catching up to do with the MCU before we joined you, so Katana didn't show us these monster things," Summer explained. "So, I guess you'll have to catch us up later, then," Ilya said. "There is no need, Ilya. Katana can simply implant the memories into your minds," Penny said as Katana nodded and proceeded to do just what the android said. "Whoa, Mama. Look at some of those things. And Neo, yours makes gold thread. We're gonna be rich." Torchwick cheered. "Why am I not surprised that's the first place your mind went?" Neo asked with a small smirk. "This all looks incredible. And we'll be getting our own monsters, too, right?" Summer asked. "Of course. Once we've seen your 4 monsters, you will receive your very own. And we'll start off with Adam's monster. And it's a good thing you mellowed out, because no one would be safe if you had this thing with you when you went cuckoo crazy. Everyone, prepare yourself for a mountainous monster, Duramboros. Katana declared. A shot of the forest was shown as the view descended to a creature sleeping on its side, which then rolled onto its feet. The creature looked around in confusion for a moment, before spotting a dead tree beside it and spinning. "Take that, tree," it declared as it knocked down the tree while a light rock song played. It soon stopped spinning and the song faded as it began to eat the tree it knocked down, clearly happy about its feast. "This wood is delicious. What is it? Is this dash?" it questioned, before it realized exactly what it was eating. "Mahogany," it roared as it realized just how much of a special feast had laid before it. "Why are the front legs so stubby? They can't even reach the ground," Nora questioned. "I mean, most brute wyverns had short arms, except Brachydios, but yeah. Those are ridiculous," Yang said. "It does look like it'd be more effective as a quadruped." Penny agreed. "Perhaps we'll find out as the episode goes on, children," Glinda told them. "So, I guess mahogany is a really good kind of wolf?" Blake asked. "Yeah, but it's more of a reference to an internet parody show nowadays," Razara explained. "Are you all ignoring the fact it knocked over a tree with ease?" Winter demanded. Alia was then seen crouched down before the camera as the Duramboros apparently noticed and approached her, revealing how massive it truly was. "Oh, my god. It's huge," John cried out. "Too huge. There's no way it could fit in most white van hideouts," Adam said, wondering if this was truly the best pick for him. "Oh, don't worry. Katana puts a spell on them that makes them small enough to fit anywhere you need them," Ruby explained, holding up Crimson, who wasn't much larger than Zvi in his current form. "It's also well camouflaged. If it was laying flat on the ground, you could easily mistake it as part of the landscape," Emerald noted. "That would make it great for surprise attacks," Ilya said enthusiastically. Duramboros. A mountainous name for a mountainous creature, the unholy result of nature one day getting bored and going, "What happens when you take a mountain, a bull and a flail?" Rage questioned as the image of a mountain, bull and flail each popped up after he mentioned it. Suddenly, a clip of a man in a long white coat held out his hand, speaking in Japanese as a giant card rose up to reveal a swirling blue vortex with 2 orange creatures in it. Everyone looked to Katana. "It's from the show Yu-Gi-Oh!, based on the card game of the same name. That guy is Seto Kaiba, and he just played the card polymerization, which combines 2 or 3 monsters together into one far more powerful monster. So, in context of the video, it's combining the bull, mountain and flail," Katana explained. "This show sounds really convoluted," Velvet said. "You have no idea," Razara confirmed. "Sounds like a game for nerds," Coco scoffed. "Still, a way to combine certain things together could prove quite useful," Ironwood said. "Indeed. Salem's done it to some of her Grimm in the past with devastating potential," Ashbin told him, shuddering at the memory. "Or, it's like what we do with basically all our weapons. Except you 3. Crow said, before pointing to John, Ironwood and Winter, whose weapons of course had no secondary form. Then, the images were seen mixed together, the bull having the mountain on its back and the flail for a tail as an angelic choir sang. It's Beatufeel. Rage cried out in awe and happiness. And thus, the first baby Duramboros came into the world. An absolute behemoth of a brute wyvern, he is colossally strong, and there is an argument to be made that amongst the herbivores, he rules supreme. Rage declared. Suddenly, in an underground desert cave, a flying wyvern with massive horns and teeth was shown. What? It demanded in disbelief. Whoa. That thing looks awesome. Those horns could probably go right through a sphinx, Nora declared. But yet, it's a herbivore? Those look like the teeth of a predator to me, Ren stated. That's Diablos. It eats cactus. The sharp teeth are for scraping off the hard skin and spikes. But if anyone's challenging Duramboros as the strongest herbivore, it's him. Teko explained. How absurd. Everyone knows I'm the mightiest herbivore. I'd freeze those sorry excuse for wyverns in place before they ever got their tails or horns anywhere near me, Valka declared, trumpeting proudly. No, Valka. Pride isn't a very attractive color on you, Weiss told her mammoth, who glared up at her, reaching her trunk around and up Weiss' skirt, blasting snow point blank against Weiss' rear, causing an adorable squeal. A walking mountain if you ever saw one, 2 humps are mimicking the peaks, while grass and moss and mushrooms grow delicately across the lengths of him. Inside the humps are stored fat for when he needs it. He can produce a burn-like state, his enrage pouring through the energy with reckless abandon to invigorate his body and increase his speed and power. But the growth upon it is not simply a byproduct on it that has gone ignored by the Duramboros. No, the moss helps retain moisture and the mushrooms, in an absolute emergency, provide a food source. And later on, once enough has formed, once the layers of flora have grown thick, well, they add a shock-absorbent property to Duramboros' already legendary hide. To all but the sharpest of foes, it is nigh impenetrable. It is thick beyond compare, able to turn away even the most ferocious of onslaughts, with presumptuous ease. Rage listed the beast's adaptations as Iliad desperately tried to avoid with the beast's bull-charging attacks. Protection and food. This thing's got everything, Yang said. Right? It's like a pain train that's fully loaded with everything it needs to keep going until you go down, Summer declared excitedly, her and Ruby holding hands with stars in their eyes. Well, it's clear to see where Red gets her pep from, Roman noted. That, or the cream and like 10 sugars, Neo added. It's only 5 and you know it, Neo, Ruby cried out with a pout. A mix of fat, hide and scale, intertwining to form one of nature's most impervious suits of armor. The Duramboros can go crashing through the undergrowth, tearing the forest asunder, and nary feel a thing as he is on his merry way, Rage declared as Alias struggled to dodge the beast as it swung its tail around wildly in huge 180-degree circles like a demented wrecking ball. A familiar clip was then shown of Logan, the Wolverine, boxing against his former comrade, Dukes. However, Wolverine's punches seemed to do absolutely nothing to the impervious blob, who had Duramboros' head superimposed on his own. Oh, yeah. That was good, Duramboros taunted as it took the beating like nothing. Hey, guess what? The beast questioned, before throwing a punch that floored Wolverine. A tank that hits like a truck. That can't be easy to deal with, Cinder said. It's still so funny to see that huge blob guy knock out Logan like nothing, Nora laughed. Too bad Logan couldn't just deflate him like a balloon with those claws, Emerald wished. Despite his defense being undoubtedly impressive, well, he still subscribes to the school of a best offense is a best. Well, you know where I'm going with this. He's not called the Tail Hammer Wyvern for nothing. It's because he's got a hammer for a tail. That's why he is. It's really quite self-evident. But this is... Rage chuckled in excitement for the next part. A perfectly honed natural weapon. A counterbalance to his immense bulk forward, it can shatter through rock and hunter and monster and damn near every bloody thing that gets in his way. He is aggressive. Territorial, in fact, more so than most carnivorous beasts. A mere sense that there might be another living thing daring to stand in the presence of this enigmatic creature will send him into a rage. A rage that will come undoubtedly fueled with his tail-mounted wrecking ball. Rage declared as Alias struggled to get hits in while avoiding the creature's deadly destructive attacks. That thing could demolish our paladins with one swing of its tail, James said in shock. Tail? Just having it ram into them should be enough to turn them to scrap. Crow corrected. Then it should have no problem busting Jacques Schnee's Faunus workers out of his mining camps. Adam noted to himself. Another clip was then shown of the familiar Shakalaka, Kayamba, wandering through a swampier area of the forest, before coming across a sleeping Duramboros. He approached the beast, unsure of exactly what it was, before he noticed a strange plant on the behemoth's tail it wanted, so he leapt up and struck the tail, but bounced off like nothing. This, however, woke up the Duramboros, who rolled to his feet angrily, knocking away Kayamba in the process, leaving him dazed on the ground. Who touched tail? The beast demanded as it looked around, before looking to Kayamba as he recovered and tried to figure out what happened. Huh? You? It declared, before Kayamba noticed it and panicked, running in a serpentine pattern as he tried desperately to escape. You touched tail. The beast roared, before charging after the unshakalaka, before everything went black. Oh, no. Run, little Kayamba. Weiss cried out worriedly. Hey, he messed with the big boy's nap time. He deserves whatever's coming to him. Ilya declared. To be fair, that's like Coco whenever she's woken up from a nap. Velvet said with a shrug. Velvet. Coco cried out in betrayal. It then returned to Alia rolling away as the beast tried to slam its tail down on her. See, he does not just swing it around or slam it into the ground, although he does and can with earth-shattering consequences, but no, Duramboros is a curious fellow. Being a huge fan of Thor, he can't help but copy his idol, hurtling himself around in a spiral of destruction, the tail screaming through the air, obliterating to a pulp all it comes into contact with. He will eventually let the weight of it carry him, lean back his body and allow him to be pulled through the air, slamming down using his gargantuan size to turn all caught into bloody pulp upon the floor. This is an exhausting technique to him, but one he employs often. Rage warned of the Duramboros' deadly attack as Alia once again struggled to avoid the massive creature as it spun in circles, its massive tail breaking through trees and anything else in its way, and even send itself sailing a large distance away by letting its tail fly off and lead its body. Holy cats, did you see that? It just used its tail to fly. Just like Thor's hammer. Ruby said excitedly. Indeed. I never would have believed a creature such as this would be able to lift itself off the ground, especially not with its tail of all things. Ashpin said, amazed. How does it not get dizzy? I'm only watching it spin, and I'm all mixed up. John cried out in a daze, Guillotine having to hold on to his hoodie to stop him from falling forward. My question is, if it's as exhausting as he says, how does he even do it that often? I definitely don't do things that would drain me that much. Especially in a fight. Roman said. That's just you being lazy. Neo teased. In fact, Duramboros were almost classified as a flying wyvern, as a certain talented individuals are able to go one step further. Rage declared as an animation was suddenly shown of a Duramboros spinning like a top, before actually lifting into the air and flying off, much to the shock and confusion of the hunters. What the? One of the hunters demanded. Most of the group laughed while Weissai twitched as she sat there, slack-jawed. No. Absolutely not. I draw the line there. I refuse a creature that massive, could fly like a helicopter. Come to think of it, even helicopters still have two blades. Weiss said adamantly. Indeed. Something that massive and solid achieving lift is inconceivable. Ironwood said. Stratus then looked to his master and flapped his wings. What about me? He questioned mentally. Well, from what I've seen, that creature even has you beat by quite a large margin. Ironwood told his B-52. Don't worry, it's totally a joke. No Duramboros has ever been seen doing that. Katana assured them. The more energetic of the group said, sadly. Though, this does require keen coordination and a strong sense of balance. Blinded, exhausted, it takes not a lot to throw him off, and the spin becomes less a force to be feared and more one to be cheered as he comes tumbling down, unable to control his own immense velocity. Though that does not stop him for long. He is bovine in nature, horns pointed forward, not sharp, but sturdy and thick, able to charge, churning up the ground in a display of sheer terrifying speed and force that'd make a Diablos blush. Rage warned of the beast's savagery as Alias struggled to even be able to get close to the creature, never mind being able to attack. Such fury. Why would a herbivore ever need to be that ferocious? Winter asked in shock. It must live in a harsh environment. Perhaps there are powerful predators there that forced it to become more aggressive to better fight them, as running likely isn't an option with its large bulk. Penny theorized. Of course. Some worse creature forces other creatures to become more violent in order to stand a chance. Adam grumbled. Sure, he learned to give up the White Fawn's violent path he would have taken in the future, but that didn't mean he let it slide when he could say something about the way Faunus were being treated. Yes, one thing we've learned is to have a more active approach in bridging the gap between Faunus and humans once we return. We will do our best to help you and your people, Mr. Taurus. Ashton said. Though the fascination of the Duramboros is very much when it is not fighting for survival. For it is a curious creature, its main diet consists of the bark, wood and timber that it can find in its preferred home of the Misty Peaks. It smashes apart forests and consumes the splinters, absorbing what nutrients it can and storing them in its humps. To have these cracked or shattered is life-threatening, for it no longer can store the energy reserves it needs to operate. In fact, it will slowly run out of steam, quite literally, as it can be seen rising between shattered husks. Though Duramboros do like to spend a lot of their time burrowed underground, surviving long periods of no food to be found by becoming one with the earth, their backs acting as the only marker that they're there, not responding to those that would walk upon what they assume is small little hillocks and one mighty animal. Rage explained as Alia now faced an even deadlier assault, the Duramboros moving even faster as steam shot out in bursts from its mouth and humps. That'd be one heck of a surprise. You take a break to rest on a hill, then the ground starts shaking and you're on the back of that thing. Jan declared. Luckily, he said they don't seem to notice when people walk upon them. Pyrrha reminded her. It could happen, though. And I'd love to be there to see what goes down when it does. Emerald laughed. My only advice would be to jump off its back and run as fast as physically possible. Ren theorized. It is able to both withstand combat and beat the likes of Xenogre, Lagiacrus, even a Brachydios has its work cut out for it trying to make a dent in a fully grown male. Though, the Duramboros are interesting when it comes to their mating cycle. The females gather in herds for collective safety, the males however, are lone wanderers. More aggressive by far, they will occasionally seek out these herds, propagate their genus and be off back to their territory and home. Any females born will join the herd, any males will reach a certain age and strike out into the world, looking for a bit of land to call theirs, sometimes coming to blows with a fellow Duramboros as they fight for control. The experience or the youth, well, sometimes one, sometimes the other. Rage established the behavior of the beasts as Alia finally managed to get some hits in when the Duramboros flung itself off course and crashed. Well, that proves Penny's theory on its predators, forcing it to become more aggressive. Glinda said. No fair. A plant eater shouldn't be able to defeated our awesome monsters. Ruby pouted. And is anyone else noticing a lot of these animals seem to go crazy around mating season? John asked. That's life in the wild, kid. You want to make it out there, you gotta dominate everything. Roman declared. Duramboros can be quite the problem, however, for humans. They don't much distinguish between the wood used to build houses and huts and that felled themselves from trees. They have been known to consume entire villages before a hunter can be found to bring it down. A male roaming too close to a populated area is a serious crisis, attacking travelers off the road and, well, consuming the very carts they were using to transport what precious little goods they could muster while leaving them broken and bloodied. Rage told of the dangers Duramboros could cause as Alia chased and fought a Duramboros through several areas, occasionally being blindsided by a bullfango as well. Everyone was shocked and disturbed by the level of damage a Duramboros could cause. Unreal. That's the kind of devastation you'd see from a pack of bears or a hurricane. Blake said in shock. Even we aren't that brutal when robbing people. Neo said to Roman, who nodded with a wince. Ouch. Outdone by an oversized cow with a nasty tail. That's gotta hurt. Summer said with a smirk. The former villains were shocked at this. The mother's even more savage than the daughter. Cinder said in shock. Yep. She's always been a bit of a brat. Crow chuckled, to which Summer stuck her tongue out at him. The Duramboros is both an egg layer and a nest maker, the females doing the guarding, rearing and feeding of the young, while the males, well, simply do what the hell they feel like. There's not the most equal dividing of work, really, when it comes to these guys, but hey, it seems to be working for them. They're a successful species. Who are we to judge? They are very much, though, still a large mystery. There is very rarely a specimen captured alive, and the guild is desperate to cut one open and really find out what makes it tick. Rage finished talking about the base Duramboros as Alia seemed to be gaining the advantage, the massive beast stumbling a lot more and limping a bit. Well, duh. How are you supposed to capture that thing? Nora questioned. Remember, students. No matter how powerful someone or thing may seem, it always has a weakness. Ozpin reminded them. Well, we already established its front limbs are tiny and useless, so if you attack its legs, with all that weight on them, it shouldn't be hard to bring it down. Ilya noted. Still, I think I have found a kindred spirit with this monster. Adam noted. There is then a subspecies to look at, the rust Duramboros. Rage said as a new hunter in the desert with a lance was seen fighting a rusty, pinkish, copper-toned Duramboros with a more axe-like tail. More copper-white pink in hue, and more suited to its desert home. This is where it gets its coloring and the distinct lack of moss to lime. It means it keeps its younger appearance for much longer. They are much harder to age. It still has the large, grinding molars to break down plant matter. The wood is few and far between, and this Duramboros is much less picky. The harsher environment comes with it harsher challenges, and as such, the Duramboros tail less hammer-like and more axe-sweeping motions to scythe through foes and hunters alike. It is larger, it is more brutal, it is more powerful than its cousin, and the environment itself coating it in the sand and grit and dirt, doubling up as the extra layer of protection that even the moss cannot compete with. Rage explained as this new Duramboros attacked much more viciously with its deadlier tail. Is it just me, or do a lot of these subspecies seem to live in drastically different places? Penny asked. Well, to be fair, the desert is a drastic change from any other location. Glinda told her. Yeah. I remember Sun always saying how huge the different Mistral was from Vacuo and how it took him forever to adapt. Blake agreed. The Rust, not content with simply defending its territory viciously, will seek out and kill smaller herbivores so there is more food for itself. Aptonov, Kelby, Renoplos, yeah, they don't want to cross the path with this thing. It can turf Sandbarioth out of its home and generally, it uses the desert as its stomping ground, gleefully dominating with its foreboding power. It really is quite the upgrade on its more temperate, by comparison, forest self. And the most disturbing part of all of this is, the coloring is not just from the dirt, from the sand, from the minerals, from the environment. No, the pinkish hues is from the blood of his enemies. Quite literally, he is bathing in the ichor of those he has slain. I mean, this guy eats plants, alright. He really does make Diablos look like a goddamn puppy. Rage declared as it suddenly cut to Diablos in an underground desert cave, the horned wyvern opening its mouth and letting out a high-pitched, puppy-like bark. I don't think I like this anymore, Ruby said, clinging to her mother, who held her tightly. Seriously, how can something that eats trees be more violent and brutal than any predator? John asked, horrified. Indeed, even by animal standards Duramboros is unnaturally aggressive, Ashbin said, equally shocked and unnerved by the beast. Absolutely incredible. Such a beautiful creature. And just as destructive as it is awe-inspiring, Adam stated. Hopefully, you'll be able to keep it under control, though, Ironwood said. Yeah, the last thing we need is one of those eating the emerald forest. Young agreed. Or, dear gods, any rust Duramboros in Vacuo or the desert of Menagerie. Ilya added, dreading the thought of one of those closing in on Sun's former home or Blake's current home. I'll make sure it listens to me. I'm not gonna let it just go rogue, Adam insisted. Still, that thing was pretty epic. I could see it caving in safes and banks pretty easily, Roman said. We're not using our animals for evil anymore, dum-dum. Besides, did you already forget golden silk? Neo asked, pointing to Kin, who shot out several strands of the golden silk and soon trapped Roman's entire body minus his head in a cocoon of silk, which had then attached to the ceiling as if to put Roman in timeout. Huh. That's what you get. She laughed, only to be put in a cocoon herself and strung up right beside Roman. Oh, come on, she complained. Act like a brat, get treated like one. No teasing, or you get the same punishment, Kin declared. Alright, we got done one of the boys, so I'd say it's time for one of the girls. So, your monster will be up next, Ilya. This one will be quite the shock to all of you. Be sure to keep your eyes wide open. Never look away. Never even blink. Or else you'll miss. Chameleos, Katana declared, starting the next episode.